If I had to choose a moment to start this story, it would probably be that first autumn morning on the university campus. The sun hadn't fully woken up yet, the golden leaves hadn't all fallen, and I still didn't know that my life was about to be turned upside down just by the awkward smile of a guy named Owen. The campus was so vast that directionally challenged people like me always had to carry coffee as a lucky charm. That day, I was trying to balance a hot latte in one hand and a stack of philosophy books in the other, when someone crashed into me at the bend near the library. Coffee spilled, books fell, and my heart nearly dropped out of my chest from the heat and embarrassment. "Oh God, sorry. I wasn't looking," the voice said, hurried but warm, the kind of warmth that makes you want to forgive before hearing the full sentence. I looked up. A guy with lightly tousled brown hair, confused blue eyes, and a way of biting his lower lip as if scolding himself. Gray hoodie, worn-out shoes, and a strange energy, both goofy and genuine. "I'm fine," I replied, trying to sound calm even though my palm was stinging from the hot coffee. "The books aren't so much," he laughed, bending down to pick up each book, dusting them off as if handling something precious. "I'm Owen," he said, handing me the last stack. "I'll buy you another one to make up for it." Not accepting compensation would be a serious insult to my honor. I don't know why I nodded so quickly. Maybe because I was lonely. Maybe because I'd just been betrayed by my latte. But mostly because of those eyes, innocent enough to make you want to protect him. We sat in the coffee shop right next to the humanities building. Small place, warm lighting, wooden tables scratched from years of students scribbling unfinished dreams. Owen sat across from me, cradling his cappuccino like a child experiencing winter for the first time. "What year are you?" I asked. "Freshman," he said, blushing slightly. "I'm from a small town. Everything here is bigger, louder, and," he paused, then chuckled softly, "scarier than I imagined." I nodded. I've been like that. I still was. "I'm a junior," I said. "Don't worry. The feeling of being lost will stick with you for all 4 years." He burst out laughing. The laugh wasn't forced. Touched something in me that I'd locked away long ago. We talked about classes, about how Owen's dorm heater sounded like a monster with a cold, and about how I'd changed majors twice like changing hairstyles. But there were things we didn't say, things hanging between our 2 steaming coffees. I was gay. And I didn't know yet. That afternoon, the wind was colder. We parted in front of the library. "See you around, Mason," Owen said, his voice hesitant as if afraid speaking too loudly would shatter the goodbye. I walked away, but my heart stayed behind. In the weeks that followed, Owen appeared in my life like a habit, sitting next to me in contemporary philosophy class, texting random questions like, "Any good taco spots on campus?" ending with, "Oh, thanks BTW. Gradually, the messages got longer, more real. "I'm scared I'm not good enough to be here. I couldn't sleep last night. Do you ever feel like an extra?" I did. I always did. We walked down leaf-strewn paths, sat on stone benches in front of the department building, ate cheap pizza at midnight, and talked about things we'd never dared tell anyone else. I told him about once loving a best friend and losing both them and myself. He listened silently, his eyes deep like they were holding on to every fragment of me. One evening it rained, a thin rain like a curtain, blurring the streetlights. Owen knocked on my door, soaked like he'd stepped out of a movie scene but the shivering, honest version. "I didn't know whose door else to knock on," he said, his voice so small the rain almost swallowed it. I pulled him in, gave him a towel, made tea. In the golden light, his face became clearer, and what I'd always suspected became impossible to ignore. He was fighting himself too. "Mason," he said, looking down at his hands, "I think I like guys." A small sentence, an earthquake in my chest. "You don't have to say that if you're not ready," I replied softly. He shook his head. "I'm ready to be honest. It's just, I've never really liked anyone. I don't know where to start. I feel late, lost, like the whole world has run ahead." I exhaled, slow and long. I knew that moment would change everything between us, one way or another. No one's late when it comes to finding themselves, Owen, I said. There's no timer for that. He looked up at me. Those eyes weren't as confused as that first day in the library. They were serious, trembling, and full of trust that scared me. I don't know if this is too sudden, he whispered. But when I'm with you, I feel less afraid. My heart pounded hard enough to shake the small room. Owen didn't know, but in that moment I understood clearly. I was the first person he dared step toward. And I also knew, the gentle danger growing in me, I was letting him become my last. Outside, the rain still fell. Inside, another door had just opened. After that rainy night, things between me and Owen didn't explode, they just shifted orbit. Like a river still flowing to the sea, but quietly branching off. We started getting used to showing up in each other's lives more than by chance. Owen brought breakfast to my room on days I overslept my alarm. I waited for him after long lab sessions with the smell of chemicals clinging to his shirt. We sat on the steps of the student union watching the crowd pass by, talking about tiny things. A corgi running around, a guy clumsily playing guitar, a couple arguing with their eyes. Amid all that noise, I found a strange peace. One Friday evening, the campus was lit up for the football game, cheers thundering like storms. We didn't go to the stadium. We chose to sit in the empty bleachers behind the gym, where there were only distant lights and the smell of damp grass. Owen said, his voice small like he was afraid of breaking something fragile. Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like everything you do is just to keep others at ease? I looked at the sky. The autumn nights here weren't as star-filled as his hometown. He said, but the wind still knew how to find those deep in thought. I played fine for years, I replied, until I didn't recognize myself in the mirror anymore. He nodded, for a long, long time, then turned to me. Mason, he said, a bit shaky. I've never held anyone's hand in that way. My heart tightened, not out of pity, but from the raw trust he'd just given. I don't need you to do anything you're not ready for, I said, meaning it so much it felt like reminding myself. But I want to, he replied, his words like a breath. With you. He extended his hand. I didn't rush. I placed mine in his, slowly like sealing a wordless promise. His hand was cold from the wind, but that gentle squeeze, firm, real, was enough to ignite something in my chest. It wasn't a spectacular moment like in movies. No fireworks, no soundtrack. Just two guys on old steps, distant lights, and crowd noise from another universe. But for me, it was a form of eternity. In the days after, Owen learned to be more honest with himself. Not through grand declarations, but small things, daring to pick the jacket he liked instead of looking normal, refusing lame jokes about gay people in his group of friends, daring to look at me longer than a few seconds without turning away like he was guilty. One evening, we did homework in the library until the staff started stacking chairs as a hint it was late. On the way back, the first snow of the season fell. Not thick, blanketing snow, just small flakes melting on contact with the ground. Owen tilted his face up to catch the snow, smiling like a child. In my town, snow gets ankle deep, but I've never felt this fresh before. I looked at him. It wasn't the snow, but him that made everything new. He turned, suddenly quiet. The streetlight cast deeper, more honest shadows in his eyes. Mason, he said softly, I like you. Not vaguely, not because you're the only one who knows about me. I like you, as you. The world paused half a beat. I'd waited for it, feared it, dreamed it. I like you too, I replied. No frills, no beating around the bush, just the truth. But I need you to know something. He swallowed. What? I've loved before, and lost. I'm not anyone's first, unless you choose me as that. And you? I hesitated, searching for words. You're at the starting line. I don't want to be your first mistake. Owen shook his head, stepping closer until I could hear his breathing. You're not a mistake. You're where I start feeling real. He rested his forehead against mine. Just that. No rules. No crossing boundaries beyond closeness. It was a touch just enough to crumble all my defenses. The kiss came like the obvious conclusion to all the unsaid things. Gentle, slow, hesitant, and sincere enough to make me tremble. Not from the cold. Because this time I wasn't just giving a kiss. I was giving hope, something I'd hidden away for so long. When we pulled apart, Owen smiled, his cheeks red from the wind and what we'd just done. "So, this is my first," he said, his voice both proud and touched. I smiled, but deep inside was a vague worry I didn't dare name. If I was his first, was I strong enough to be someone's last again? Life doesn't pause for two people in love to sort their emotions. Deadlines still come, classes pile up, the dorm laundry machines still rumble like they're protesting all poetry. But amid the chaos, we created our space. Lunch in the unnoticed corner of the cafeteria, the stone bench under the old oak, get home safe texts at 1 a.m. Once, Owen said, "Do you think love has to last a lifetime to be real?" I went quiet. I remembered an endings no one prepared for. I said, love doesn't prove itself by years. It proves itself by who we become when we're with that person. Owen nodded, then held my hand under the table. No one saw, but I knew. He'd just taken another step out of his comfort zone. I didn't know what the future would take away. But right then, amid the smell of fries and the noisy chatter of students, I knew one thing clearly. I was falling in love again, for real. And this time, no half measures. I was his first in daring to trust his feelings. And he, somehow, was quietly becoming the ending I never dared write. Love, when it's budding, is like a song you hear for the first time but feels strangely familiar. It seeped into my and Owen's everyday life quietly, present in small things that, if unnoticed, might seem like mere habits. In the morning, I'd see a text, "Up yet? It's cold, wear an extra layer." In the evening, he'd stop by just to return a pen he'd accidentally forgotten, and stay 2 more hours just sitting beside me, each doing our own thing, occasionally glancing at each other and smiling for no reason. Owen didn't try to hide that he was learning how to love. He asked a lot, really a lot, like a kid entering a museum for the first time, wanting to touch everything. Is loving someone always fun? Have you ever been afraid you'd wake up one day and not love anymore? How do you know this feeling is real and not just loneliness? I answered as honestly as I could, even when the answers exposed old scars. It's not always fun. Some days love is tired, rumpled, like an old coat you still want to keep. I've been afraid of falling out of love, and realized emotions aren't formulas. They change with us. As for real or not, if you keep asking and it's still there, it's probably real. He listened intently, like a student taking notes for the final exam of his heart. Then one day, Owen said he wanted to take me to his dorm room. "My roommate's home for the weekend," he said, a bit awkward. "We can watch a movie. Or just talk is fine too." I knew what he meant, and what he hadn't dared say out loud. His room was neater than I imagined. A single bed, desk full of yellow sticky notes, a few family photos neatly by the lamp. On the shelf, a high school soccer trophy and an unfinished model airplane. Everything breathed of someone trying to grow up while holding on to patches of youth. Owen prepared popcorn, put on a movie he'd seen 3 times just because the end credits music made him want to cry. We sat next to each other on the bed, shoulders touching, breaths mingling with the dialogue from the old laptop. I don't remember what the movie was about. I only remember the moment Owen turned, his hand seeking mine, trembling slightly. He whispered, "Mason, I'm scared." "Why?" I asked softly. "Because I want more. But I'm also afraid of doing it wrong. I don't want to make this pressure for you." I squeezed his hand gently. "We'll go at your pace. No need to be like anyone else." He nodded. A long silence passed, soft like a blanket. Then he hugged me. No rush, no impulse. Just the hug of someone who'd held in emotions too long and finally let them go. In that embrace, I heard the unsaid. I was the first he dared trust completely. We lay next to each other, just that. Heartbeats so close I couldn't tell whose was whose. Outside, wind hit the window. Other students laughed in the hall. Life went on. And in that small room, two guys were learning to be gentle with each other and themselves. But love isn't only gentle. One afternoon, Owen texted, "You free tonight? I want to talk." Messages like that rarely lead to something easy. We met on the wooden bench behind the library, where golden leaves piled up like an unsent autumn letter. Owen looked down at his sneakers. "My mom called," he said. "She asked if I've met anyone." I stayed silent. I wasn't jealous. I just sensed a storm in his voice. "I didn't lie," he continued. "I said yes, someone." Then she asked what kind of girl she was. The sentence trailed off, the unsaid words heavier than what he'd voiced. "I couldn't say," Owen whispered. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out, like an invisible string tightening. I looked at him, broad shoulders curling in like he wanted to shrink. "You don't owe anyone your story," I said softly. "Telling or not is your right. It's not a test to prove who you are." Owen nodded, but his eyes reddened. "But I hate hiding, like I'm concealing something shameful." "When?" He looked up. His gaze met mine, no longer fleeing. "When I love you," he said, his voice steady. The world went silent for a second. I saw in that sentence not just a confession but the whole battle he'd fought. Nights questioning who he was, fears of rejection, invisible standards weighing on his shoulders. I stepped closer, touching his cheek lightly. "I love you," I replied, not because he needed to hear it, but because it had been true in me for so long. We didn't kiss right away. We just rested our foreheads together like that first snow night, letting emotions spread like warmth from a hot tea. But eventually we argued over things that seemed small. That day, Owen avoided me all afternoon. Texts came sparingly, replies curt. When I found him, he was outside the economics building, hands in pockets, face full of conflict. "I saw you with Alex," he said, no beating around. "You two were laughing a lot." Alex was an old classmate, someone who'd known me in a story I rarely revisited. I exhaled. "We were just talking about a research project." "I know," Owen interrupted. "But I still feel scared. I don't have a past for you to be jealous of. But you do. And sometimes I wonder if I'm just a short chapter in your life." That hit my deepest fear. I approached, not avoiding. "Owen, you're the chapter one don't want to turn. Not because I'm afraid of what's next, but because I'm here and I want to stay." He looked at me for a long time. Then his tense shoulders relaxed. His jealousy wasn't control. It was the very human fear of being replaced. I hugged him amid the passing crowd. No long apologies needed. Just that hug saying it all. "I choose you, day by day." In that moment, I realized something simple yet sharp. Love isn't just firsts, lasts, or distant promises. Love is staying even when both are afraid. And deep down, I knew I'd gone too far to turn back. I'd let Owen become the last thing I wanted to lose. Some relationships grow not through grand confessions but through very ordinary evenings. Owen and I navigated winter like that, with thick coats, hands tucked in pockets, and stories only we knew. We had a favorite spot, a small 24/7 diner on the corner, where the servers remembered our orders. I got black coffee. Owen got hot chocolate with so much whipped cream I'd always shake my head but end up eating some for him. The music from the old jukebox was always a bit scratchy. But amid the clatter of plates and the smell of pancakes, I felt my life slow down in a rare, comforting way. One late night, the place was almost empty. Outside the window, snow fell thicker than usual. Owen looked out, the streetlight reflecting in his eyes like rippling water. "Mason," he said softly, "are you afraid of the future?" "I am," I replied honestly. "But not because the future is scary. Because I know it can take everything away so fast." He pursed his lips, then asked, "If one day we have to part, graduation, different cities, different jobs, what do you think we'll be?" I didn't lie. "I don't know. But I know today I'm here with you. And I choose this truth over pretending to feel nothing just to avoid pain." Owen went quiet, then held my hand on the table, no hiding. The server passing by just smiled. We weren't hiding in shadows anymore, at least in this small space. New Year's, the campus was strangely empty. Most students went home, the dorms unusually quiet. I stayed for library work. Owen stayed because reasons we both understood but didn't voice. We welcomed the new year on the dorm rooftop, wrapped in an old thick blanket, sharing a can of soda. In the distance, the city's fireworks bloomed like flowers out of season. "Make a wish," Owen said, eyes on the sky. "I don't believe in wishes," I laughed. "But I believe in the person next to me when the fireworks fade." He turned to look at me, fireworks streaking his cheek. "I wish," he said slowly, "I'm brave enough to keep what I love." I didn't ask more. I just pulled him closer. Our heartbeats blended with the distant booms, and in that moment, I didn't think about tomorrow. I only thought about him shivering lightly in my arms. Not from the cold. Then spring came. Unlike gentle autumn, spring brought big questions. Internship acceptances, interview emails, friends' graduation plans, everything hit like a downpour. Owen got an internship opportunity on the East Coast. He came to me with the printed email, edges crumpled from being gripped tight. "They want me there for 3 months," he said. "If it goes well, it could be a full-time job after graduation." I looked at the words before his face. Right then, I knew how important this was to him. He'd grown up in a small town, carrying a sense of not enough. This opportunity was like concrete validation. He was worthy. "Congratulations," I said. And like every classic movie, the right words were the ones that hurt most. Owen didn't smile. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Not of the job, of leaving you behind." I exhaled, feeling both warm and choked. "You're not leaving me behind. You're stepping toward your life. I want to see you do that." "But what about us?" he asked, voice smaller. 2 simple words, heavy as a city. "We'll try," I said. "And if one day things aren't as we want, what we had is still real, even if it ends." Owen looked at me long, then hugged me tight like memorizing the shape of the hug. That night, we didn't talk much. We just lay next to each other in my room, light casting gold on the ceiling. He traced his fingers into mine, lacing tight like afraid to lose them. "Mason," he whispered, "you're the first who makes me want to stay in a place just for one person." I bit my lip to keep my voice steady. "And you," I said, "might be the last I want to compare anyone to." No lifetime promises, no forever. Just the present, but one we both held with both hands. The weeks before Owen left flew by so fast I couldn't neatly sort my emotions. We did small things. Ate burgers from the food truck by the library, took awful photos in the mall photo booth, sat on the grass watching the sky turn purple at dusk. In each moment, there was a thin layer of parting we both felt but neither peeled away. We chose to live every second fully instead of dissecting the future. On the day Owen went to the airport, I went with him. No romantic movie prepared me for that feeling. Announcements echoing for flights, our hands squeezing one last time before security. He looked at me like committing it all to memory. My eyes, my smile, even my habit of pushing up my glasses. "I'll come back," Owen said. Not a promise, just simple faith. "I know," I replied. I didn't cry. I just felt a space in my chest open, both painful and bright. He hesitated, then said slowly, "You're my first in so many things. First real love. First time daring to say who I am. First time feeling the world isn't too tight to breathe." I smiled, and this time my voice trembled. "And you might be the last I love like this, wholly, holding nothing back for myself." We kissed quickly, briefly, like a period at the end of a sentence before the story pauses, not ends. Then he went through the metal gate, turning back to look one more time. I stood there a long while, until I couldn't see his gray jacket in the crowd anymore. In my head echoed a calm, sharp truth. Some people pass through our lives like trains, but the mark they leave isn't in the destination. It's in how we're no longer the same person. I didn't know what waited ahead. I only knew I'd let him enter my life as a first, and in my heart, I'd unconsciously let him stay as a last. I'd once thought I understood all about endings, that they either shatter or fade over time. But sitting on the stone steps in front of the library, Watching Owen walk toward me across the autumn campus, I realized some endings aren't like that. Some endings start like a promise. He wore the familiar gray hoodie, hands in pockets, hair lightly tousled by the wind. When our eyes met, the world around slowed, the students' laughter, the crunch of dry leaves, all blurred into a background. Just him. And me. "Sorry, I'm late," Owen said, his voice softening like it was just for me. "Yeah, I know," I replied, smiling. "You're always a bit late, but you still come." He sat down next to me, our shoulders touching, warmth spreading like a hot cocoa in the crisp air. We didn't say anything for a few seconds, just sat there, letting this closeness breathe freely. Owen turned, his eyes sparkling in an indescribable way. "Mason, I told my mom. About us." He nodded. "About liking you. No, not just liking. About loving you." The words were clumsy, a bit shaky, but real like ink soaking into paper. "I told her you're the first who made me see life differently." I went still. The first. I thought about the first time Owen held my hand on the stadium bleachers, his hand cold and trembling, but gripping with determination. I thought about the moment he admitted that before me, he'd always thought he was fine hiding his feelings in a corner. I remembered his eyes when he said, "I don't know how to love, but I want to try with you." I swallowed lightly. "And what did she say?" Owen smiled, a smile mixed with tears. "She said, if it makes you better, I want to know his name." He touched my hand lightly. I said your name, clearly, completely. A breeze passed. I suddenly understood the feeling of being given something fragile and priceless. Someone's first trust. "I'm different," I said, my voice deeper. "Owen, before you, I'd loved. I'd broken. I'd learned to build walls around myself." I paused, looking at our interlaced fingers. "But with you, I don't want anyone after. No more times. I want to stop here." He went quiet, then whispered, "I'm your first in that, and I'll be your last. Is that what you're saying?" I nodded, honest to the point of aching. We walked back to the dorm as the afternoon light fell on the red brick roofs. Golden lamps lit up in rows like stars near the ground. Each step with Owen beside me lightened something that had weighed on my chest for so long. In the room, the air held only the soft hum of the heater. Owen stood in the middle of the small room, looking at my band poster on the wall, smiling like he knew every detail. He turned back, his face unusually serious. "Mason, I'm still scared," he said. "Not of loving you, but that I'm not enough. Not enough experience, not enough courage, not enough to not hurt you." I came close, placing my hand on his chest, feeling the real, clumsy, vibrant heartbeat. "No one's enough," I replied. "I'm not either, but I want to go with you. When you tremble, I'll stand by. When I'm tired, I'll lean on you. No one has to be perfect to deserve love, Owen." His eyes softened. Something broke and healed at once. We hugged. No hurry, no proving anything, just two guys holding on to something real. That night, we lay next to each other, talking about small things. Favorite pizza, the first song that made us feel seen, vague fears about life after graduation. His fingers found mine, lacing like a new habit that already felt inevitable. In the silence, Owen whispered, "Thanks for being my first, not just in love, but the first I dared to be myself with." I turned, looking at his features in the soft golden night light. "And thanks for being the last I want to stop at," I said. Not like an ending, but like a harbor. Outside, wind swept through the trees, carrying the scent of leaves and a new season. I realized love isn't always dazzling or perfect. Sometimes it's just quiet patience, sitting together no matter how noisy the world, looking to the future without knowing it all, but knowing one thing, who you want to go with. The next morning, we crossed the campus together, coffee in hand, the sky so clear blue it seemed to cheer us on. Some might say this is just a college romance. Everything changes eventually. I smiled. Maybe. But some college romances make you look back at your life and whisper, "Ah, so that's it." I, Mason, had loved, had lost, had thought my heart should only be used sparingly. But Owen came, not loudly, not overly dramatic. He was just there, real enough that all my defenses felt unnecessary. And when we leave the lecture hall someday, diplomas in hand, lost in the crowd, I know I'll remember this moment more than any graduation speech. The moment I understood our story doesn't start with once and end with the end. It starts with I and you, and continues with us. He was the first to learn love with me. I was the first he dared give his heart to.